Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, and as we are reaching crunch time here at the Stage 1 Major, Los Angeles Thieves are continuing to cause havoc in the low bracket, but could their series up against the New York Subliners be the last series that Clayster ever plays? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, I thought this was kind of funny from Masu, spotted Scump on a rampage here in Arlington, definitely well getting ready for what is going to be a crazy championship Saturday right here. Potentially OpTic or FaZe will play 2 games today, one of which in the lower bracket will be against Los Angeles Thieves, whichever team loses that first series. The bracket for this tournament is out of control. We'll look at it towards the end of the video. Before we get to that point, I wanted to mention this just real quick. In ranked play, some new restrictions coming through from Treyarch. So we talked about this, right? Some of the issues that some people had with these weapons being allowed. These are all now restricted. They appear as unrestricted in creator class according to Treyarch, but now will be restricted in game as of course we expect them to be. Let's dive into the final series of yesterday, which I didn't get to cover in last night's video because it was a crazy long day. I mean, 5 series starting at 8 PM. It's a tough time. But anyway, for some reason, Minnesota Rokkr straight up challenged Los Angeles Thieves on Gather 2 again. Eventually, someone will beat them on this map. But like, you know, come on. I don't really know what they were thinking here. There were some other options. Like, Los Angeles Thieves, they love this map. And I mean, they've made that very clear indeed, right? It's not a secret that LA Thieves have been very good at this map for a very long time at this point. And still, Minnesota Rokkr, of course, they're kind of specialist at losing game ones. Yesterday, they did win the game 1 to Los Angeles Guerrillas, in fairness, and when they did that, they wanted to win the series 3-0. But this time, I mean, it's Gather 2 hardpoint. You're probably not going to beat LA Thieves on the map, especially with the way their hardpoint is looking right now in general, not just on this map specifically. Game 2, a nice little bounce back from Rokkr, as you might expect. That's why I think LA Thieves are going to have a hard time today, and well, the rest of the tournament that they're going to have, because their search and destroy has still been pretty tough. Yes, they won all the respawns in this series kind of comfortably, but Minnesota Rokkr are not a respawn specialist team. When they play a team that's good in respawns and can split the respawns against, their search and destroy, I think, is going to be their downfall. We saw it already up against Toronto Ultra, and well, today they're going to have to either play FaZe or OpTic last game of the day. They're not going to make it easy for them in all the game modes. But in fairness, LA Thieves did look very good right here. They close out this series 3-1 in the hardpoint at the end. Minnesota Rokkr made it close, but once again, like, I was kind of surprised, frankly, because Standy was such a revelation for Minnesota Rokkr last year. Priestahh also was a fantastic player a couple of years ago, but the last couple of years, Priestahh really hasn't been at that level. Everyone's really been expecting Priestahh to kind of get back to great form, but we really haven't seen it so far, to be honest. And well, even in this game as well, goes, I'm pretty sure, 0.8 KD. Standy and Priestahh, I think both have been solid in search and destroy, but in the respawns, they've been nowhere near what they need to be, frankly, to beat a team like Los Angeles Thieves. Even as Drazah says, +5 SR, right? So he reckons that Minnesota Rokkr marginally better than New York that he got +3 SR for after his victory yesterday. But you know, once again, as Kenny says, when Cap says first map is Gather 2, the boys are absolutely loving it, right? So not really sure why teams are still challenging on this one. Maybe we'll see that later today. But more than likely, if either Crowd or Rambo know what they're doing, they'll probably steer clear of playing them up against this map. So Rokkr come out top 8 in this tournament. They beat Los Angeles Guerrillas to avoid placing last. But yeah, still not ideal for this team. Certainly expected when you've got a tough matchup and you're starting in the losers bracket anyway. But yeah, lots of questions really being raised as to a lot of these teams falling out here, top 12, top 8. Will they have to make some roster changes going into stage 2? They don't have long to do that. Maybe there's a substitute option out there, but I reckon after the stage 2 major, we're going to see some crazy roster mania comes through, to be honest. These were the final series standings, so Drazah 1.16, he was out of control, and yeah, as I mentioned, Standy and Priestahh both with 0.8s. Not something we would expect to see. Definitely both of these guys need to step it up in the respawns, to be honest, and Attach had a great series in the first few maps. Pretty sure he like had a horrible map 4, map 3 or something, but I still managed to finish with a 1.23, so just goes to show how hard he was trying to, well, not the series result, of course, they were looking for. Now let's talk about New York Subliners real quick, because they, of course, fell short yesterday to LA Thieves themselves. LA Thieves had to play 2 games yesterday to make it all the way. Now they guaranteed top 6, but well, getting further than that, as I say, is going to be difficult when we look here at the bracket. But Subliners, they went out top 12. They didn't win a map this tournament. People were kind of hyped that Paris Legion won more maps than them. Paris Legion even wanted to win a series, right? And now New York are officially the worst team in the league, because before, some people said, okay, maybe New York is still 11th and Paris are 12th. Now Paris have to be 11th with the new Gravity edition, or even higher than that, right? Who knows how they finish off this tournament, and New York are just guaranteed to be in that 12th position. So, well, really not a good sign for them. As Clayster says, there was some discussion about it. Well, some teams for stacking a point, but some teams saying it's not a good idea. As Clayster says, neither works. You just get naded if you all sit on the point and the push is moot. Better to just try and play the lives, because 4 stacking is almost guaranteed death. If everyone's spawning up, looks up and throws a frag, maps for control are just abysmal. So interesting discussion really, because we see in general stacking probably works slightly better than what some teams decide to do, but if I suppose the nades are good, then that doesn't work either. So an interesting discussion these teams are having in terms of what the meta looks like. Things will certainly improve, we imagine, from stage 2, when their, well, ticks are determining who gets round 5 in control. control, so people aren't playing for kills so hard anymore. But yeah, questions really about what New York are going to do in general, right? Because Neptune versus Royalty, some stats I saw that were quite interesting. Like, Royalty, since joining the team, he's had a bit of a shocker, right? No doubt. Like, no one really expected him to do anything phenomenal, but like, you know, they're expecting him to be a solid fill-in, and if anything, Neptune actually has better stats technically than Royalty, which is pretty ugly, at least in terms of pure KD, and even damage as well, actually. Despite everyone saying that Neptune was playing way too slow, still had better damage overall than Royalty did. But seeing very similar stats is quite interesting, right? Because it just goes to show the rest of the team didn't seem to change their playstyle at all, and just hoped Royalty would fill this role better, but still they've got a guy like Royalty filling the same role as Neptune, dropping pretty much very similar stats across the boards. So tough time for all involved. What do they do to fix this team, right? Some people have been suggesting they've got to bring back Neptune, they've got to give it a go. This even from Crim, we did look at this briefly yesterday, but I said I'd talk about this a little bit more. The fact that I'm excited for this surgery on my ear says a lot. So I don't know what he's exactly saying here. Maybe he's saying that, well, if he's going to have surgery on his ear, he might have to take a little bit of time off playing the game, right? Take a bit of a break, and maybe a substitute needs to come in for Crimsix or something, who knows? And Crim maybe says he's looking forward to that, right? So I guess he's looking forward to it if it's going to improve his ear health and hopefully everything goes okay for him. And you imagine if he does have like a hearing issue as a result of this, it might help with that, and will help his in-game performance as well. But it also might mean he has to take a little bit of time off, which seemingly right now he's very much looking forward to, given I imagine inside that team internally, it's a very frustrating state. But some were saying, look, we've got to bring Neptune back into the starting lineup. He was done dirty, got to give him another go. But it means that you really have to. I mean, Hydra's just carrying every series for the loss. It's a tough time. Got to get rid of either Crimsix or Clayster. Last year's Dallas Empire was pretty successful with Crimsix on the main AR. I guess the subliners were also with Clayster there for a time. They probably work well apart, but together in 4v4 doesn't really seem to be working out. And Crim, honestly, so far, I think has probably been the second best player on this team behind Hydra, which makes most people think it's got to be Clayster that's out of here. And if Clayster's gone, will he ever actually be joining another team?
Decision solely into effect. What moves are you making?
Well, I mean, you already basically tried to sub out Neptune, who you thought was an issue. I mean, the only thing that would be fair is you bring Neptune back, right? And then you just look at Crim and Clay and you make a replacement there. And you're going to need, I think you just need a flex. Realistically, that Gavutu, right, with two, AR players in Crim and Clay, granted Hydra went off, didn't look the worst, but every other map was terrible. And like by their current like roster, their map pool is just so freaking limited. They need an actual flex. Like that's what I think their biggest issue is. And I think right now, what's your flex pool like outside in challengers? You have like aBeZy, which I think could be good because he's also French. So maybe him and Hydra can just go vibe.
I like Chris. I like that. I mean,
aBeZy's been frying in challengers, yeah. Right? Or like Paul X, or what's the other team? I'm trying to think.
So who do you drop?
Those are between Crim and Clay?
Yeah. I think if you're dropping Clay, you're moving Crim to main.
Right. And I think Clay's the more natural main. I think Clay's the more natural main AR, but I also think Crim has been looking better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a decision that they're gonna have to make. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, regardless, it's Clay and Crim. I mean, these are both legendary players. They've been playing for a really long time. These guys are well-rounded, multiple championships across the board, and rings. So it's hard to get rid of one of those guys. But the moral of the story is you have to get rid of one of them because he's just not working. And I definitely
if we get rid of Clay, I mean, do you see him playing anymore, or is that the end?
I don't know. There? You gotta ask Clay. I personally.
Well, I'm saying, do you see him getting on another franchise this year?
Right now, no. Personally, I do not, and that's just me being honest.
Either. And I don't see Clay sitting out a year and then coming back next year.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely, I don't know if I see it.
Never say never, man. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, at the end of the day, you never know where Clay...
So we'll see what subliners decide to do. As we say, today is Saturday, Sunday is Championship Sunday, then there's only a few days until the league starts again. So what will happen between now and then, I don't know. Some of these teams will have to do something. Like, I'm sure they're discussing it already in New York, what exactly is going to go on with their roster. But so yeah, a lot of people are suggesting Clayster might find himself out of it. He hasn't been performing great so far. He himself, and I realizes that, right? And either, decides to try and stick it out to make it work into stage 2, or decides to step away himself, or the team decides it's better to go in a different direction. And if that's the case, probably there's not too many opportunities out there for Clayster right now, especially at the moment, right? Maybe after stage 2 there could be, if he does still stay around that long and is competing at the time. So hopefully Clayster sticks around. Like, I'd love to see him get to 30, right, as still a professional player. But yeah, so far this season hasn't looked great, and he seems to be kind of the most likely on the chopping block at this point. But I mean, still, hopefully it doesn't happen, but I can't really see too many other options for New York at this point, given their tragic start to the season. season. Let's dive in then to the bracket that we are going to have coming up later today. OpTic, of course, had a good time against Seattle Surge, even though looking back on this series, you do kind of think, okay, hang on a second, Seattle Surge, how impressive a victory was this for OpTic over Seattle, the 3-0, because that Seattle just did get beaten by Paris Legion yesterday, right? So always that kind of discussion is in the air, but of course they were looking particularly good. I saw some of the stats here that Sean Connors pointed out were quite remarkable. Over the last 4 games, OpTic is 12-1 in map counts. They haven't lost to Surge, they haven't lost to Control in their last 4 series. Dashy has a 1.78 in Search and Destroy. I remember he was like 4-15 in like 2 Search and Destroys against Minnesota Rokkr. Lately he's completely turned that around. A 1.6 KD in Control. Shotzzy and Dashy both in top 5 in CDL for KD over the last 4 games. So pretty incredible, to be honest. Now FaZe are not far behind. They're actually, well, very similar. 6-0 in Hardpoint, 3-1 in Search, 3-1 in Control over the last few series. So these 2 teams may well end the weekend as the number 1 and number 2 teams in the game, but someone has to take down this series in the bracket, and the series now look as follows. So this is the bracket going into the Saturday. So, well, we play the winners bracket games. First up, we have Breach versus Legion in the lower side. The loser of this goes out top 8. Then, of course, we have the winners bracket games. So Ravens versus Ultra. This is a banger, straight up Battle of Europe. I know that I predicted going into the weekend that London would come out of this weekend being the number 1 European team. So I guess I kind of had to stick with that prediction here. Gizmo's confident he's going to get one over on his mate Cammy. But, I mean, yeah, still, that's a fantastic series. Then FaZe OpTic in the upper side. This, of course, theoretically, the series of the day should be no doubt. Very excited to see how this one goes. The loser of this goes down to play Thieves in the lower bracket. The loser of that series gets top 6. So, it's really tough for one of these teams. FaZe come in here technically as favourites, right? The winner of both these series goes on to play in the winners final on Sunday. Also, the losers round 4 and beyond will also be played on the Sunday as well. Losers semi-final, losers final, and then the grand finals as well, all on the Sunday. But yeah, a remarkable set of series we're going to have today. It's going to be another late one, no doubt, because this is the schedule. So yes, Boston reach Paris Legion. I think I'm going to take Boston to win this. Honestly, though, I'm not really sure. Paris looked pretty good yesterday with Gravity. Ten was playing very well. Fellow looked a lot more comfortable on the SMG. John had a great series also. Not sure John's going to be quite that consistent to another great series like that. I think Boston should still be the better team. But look, if Paris can beat Seattle, they can certainly beat Boston. So I think this is going to be a close affair, actually. I am just going to lean the way of Boston, though. London versus Ultra. As I said, at the end of this weekend, I predicted London going to be the number 1 team from Europe, at least at European roster. So I'm going to take London here 3-1. I'm still not convinced about Ultra's respawn. If it goes game 5 Surge, I still think London have a good chance. Ultra should probably be favoured, though. But I think 3-1 London in this one. Then FaZe versus OpTic. I mean, what a banging series. The first time we've seen this on LAN in a very long time indeed. Both of these teams coming in firing on all cylinders. I think this is like a 60-40 series, 60%, 40% that FaZe win it. At the end of the day, it's tough to look past FaZe. I think I have to take them in this series, but it's going to be a close 4-4. I think FaZe win this one 3-2. But in fairness, in front of the home crowds, like, what's it going to be like, right? The atmosphere there's going to be crazy. FaZe are going to be on the ropes if Scump gets a 2-piece. It's been quite a while since FaZe are going to have to deal with an environment like this. So I certainly think OpTic can do it. The environment, I'm sure, would be absolutely electric if they do. But until proven otherwise, FaZe are the number 1 team in the game. We'll get this done in the game 5. Then I've got Toronto beating Boston. Then I've got OpTic versus Texas in the lower side. And if that series goes through, I think that OpTic will win it in a 3-2 fashion again. I think it's going to be a very late evening. But, Los Angeles Thieves, they're really good at the hard points. Their Search and Destroy has left something to be desired. I think OpTic will get through to the championship Sunday here, but beating FaZe is going to be a difficult order. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit in a like button. Tell us the YouTube gods this is a good video. I'd just like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.